Hi! Where have you been? Are you hiding? Or am I hiding? We gotta get into this Riverdale thing. This is crazy. Crazy. Like, very crazy. Do you remember Archie and the gang? They are a hot mess. Let's get into this. Before I get in too deep, the first thing I want to do is say thank you because I have been gone for about 2 weeks, if you didn't notice. And I had to reset some stuff, equipment failure, equipment, lack of cooperation. So anyway, the microphone works. I'm sure you see the little tip of the head there. If you're new to this channel, my name is Miss Margaret, and this is my bucket list channel. I love it. I love doing these videos, and I hope you're enjoying it. At some point, I'll ask you to subscribe and all that good stuff. But for now, let's just talk about Riverdale. So, Riverdale. When I was growing up, I used to trade comics on an army base. I used to walk up and down the stairwell with these cardboard boxes, and we would trade comics between us. Me, my friends, children I didn't really know that well, but I'd see them at school. And one of the comics that I would trade was Archie's. The Archies, or what was it called back then? I think it was just called Archie back then. I had this pie in the sky, this utopia-like community in mind. And, you know, I think we, in my generation anyway, we see the Happy Days series as sort of a spin-off of the Archies because, well, the main character was a redhead, so it wasn't a reach. Back to the Archies. They were the clean-cut crew. And there was always some sort of little thing with Veronica, as I remember. I think that was the most I got out of it. Betty was the innocent one. Anyway, we'll get into all of this when we talk about who they were back in the day and who they are today. So your kids, my kids are watching these characters. So we're going to take a very close look, at least up to the point I'm at in the series. I hear they only had two seasons, but I thought it was interesting. I was binge watching it one night, and I just got into it. And it wasn't my first time to try to watch it, but it was my first time to follow through watching, episode after episode, and I loved it. I've got a couple of problems with characters and the way that they've been redressed, revised. There's some newbies in there. I saw a couple of people, in fact, 3 or 4 of the actors that I grew up with. And it was nice to see them playing the parts of parents. And one is the mayor. I'm not going to tell you who. It was Robin Givens. Robin Givens is in it. Molly Ringwald is in it. She is the mother of Archie, actually. So let's talk about these characters. Stop wasting time. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Mea culpa. I have to run an ad from one of our sponsors. See you in 30. So I was talking about this bacchanal going on with Riverdale. Here's what though. I mean, I'm not a prude. I read graphic comics. I read canon. So the message here is, if you are going to be a little bit skittish and squeamish, this is not a series you're going to enjoy. If you are conservative or if you have spiritual leanings that prevent you from accepting differences. I'm just going to leave it right there because there are a lot of differences. It all starts off with a murder. The story begins with the murder of Jason Blossom. This is him here with the signature red hair that reveals itself throughout the story as a genetic feature of the family as the story unfolds. They're just strange people. We see Jason again as the truth comes out about why his body was found on the shore of the lake with a bullet in his forehead. Keep watching to find out why Jason was killed and who was at the lake that morning laying on a blanket with Mrs. Grundy, the music teacher. Oh, excuse me, Miss Grundy, the music teacher. Twin sister to Jason is Cheryl Blossom. There's that red hair again. She was the last one to see Jason alive when they took a rowboat into the middle of the lake, where she says she dropped her glove in the water and Jason attempted to fetch it for her. The boat flipped, Cheryl tells us, and he drowned while she swam ashore. The next time we see her, she's all wet looking like a mermaid, crying, weeping, and sitting on a rock. Anyway, keep watching to find out why they were in the boat in the first place. Meantime, let's move on to Polly Cooper. She is Betty's sister. You know who Betty is, one of the main characters. And we hear her name a lot, but we never actually meet her until Betty attempts to rescue her from an abusive asylum. It turns out Polly was pregnant by Jason. His true intentions with Polly are confusing, and Polly's behavior, probably due to heavy medication, makes her a suspect. Keep watching, and I'll tell you what she had to do with Jason's death. Betty Cooper, speaking of her, is an incarnate of Nancy Drew, and she is almost annoying, but without her, we have no storyline because she keeps pushing everything. She's questioning everything. She wants harmony, I guess. I don't know. I just think she's just a busybody myself. But anyway, funny enough, she's just like her mother, complete with feelings of inadequacy and anger management issues. Who knew Betty was angry? I remember in the comic book series, she would once in a while take up for herself, but it was inconsistent. It had to be over the top before she actually defended herself. So I guess this is kind of true to the original character. She claps back with her mother more and more as the storyline intensifies. Eventually, I'm going to have to tell you how she gets involved with the murderer, who we come to know as the Black Hood. At this point in the story, I'm only up to season 2, episode 5, I think. So I really have no idea who the Black Hood is, but that's what they're calling him. Alice Cooper is Betty's mother. She has glimmers of human qualities from time to time, but not long enough for you to be sick of her constant fire poking and flame fanning, just like her daughter, Betty. At one point, she owns up to her past and comes out of the closet. Honestly, I think she and FP had a thing back in the day, but I've only watched, like I said, up to season 2, episode 5. But who is FP? You'll find out in a minute. Anyway, in a nutshell, FP is Jughead's father. I never knew he had a father in the comic, but I guess he had to come from somewhere, right? All right, so Veronica Lodge. Now, we know Veronica, always with that black hair and those severe eyebrows. I would say that as far as the look, they nailed it. They really nailed it. Throughout the whole series, all I kept watching are these eyebrows thinking, damn, they really nailed this girl. Anyway, she appears in the series when she shows up as the new girl in town. She and her mother, Hermione Lodge, have moved to boring Riverdale to escape the stigma of being the daughter and wife of a career criminal, Hiram Lodge. You'll see him again in a minute. I had forgotten what he looked like, and then when I saw the cartoon image, I mean, really, they upgraded him all the way. Veronica says she's trying to change her ways, but if you read the comic book, you know she only takes action when she stands to benefit from it. At the end of this video, along with all the other information, I'm going to tell you how she, Veronica, a high school student, blackmailed her parents and becomes a criminal herself. Hermione Lodge is Veronica's mother. She's a MILF, as they say in the industry, and Veronica is an apple that did not fall far from the tree. You will not believe who she's involved with until her gangster husband, yes, Hiram Lodge, finds out. So let's move on to Hiram Lodge. Talk about an upgrade. If you enjoyed the undertones of The Sopranos on HBO, you will absolutely love to hate this man. He's a dark horse in the series and quite the manipulator. At this point in the story, he is manipulating young Archie Andrews, who is now dating his daughter Veronica. Naturally, as it is in the gangster tradition, be careful how you treat my daughter, don't be in her bedroom, don't let me find you here again. Really, I'm glad he said it, but I'm trying to understand. These high school students are acting like they have their own apartments. You should see the way Archie lays up with Veronica at his house. But anyway, I guess the gangster man said if you're going to lay up, then you lay up at your house. Archie Andrews is the lead character in all of this. And he is so far ahead of his manhood that he doesn't seem to know which way is up. He's faking it till he makes it, is what it felt like to me, because I know this is supposed to be a high school boy. He's very confused, very adolescent in his social behaviors in many ways, but meanwhile mature enough to grab guns and do all kinds of stuff. His mother is not there to calibrate his adolescence and puberty, so we watch Archie drift from one lover to another. Surprisingly, the love Betty had for him was unrequited. He was too busy kissing Veronica in a closet and making moves on Josie's band member, Valerie Brown, and breaking all kinds of statutory laws with one of the staff members at the school. And who else would that be but Miss Grundy? Yes, Miss Grundy! Talk about a character revision. If none other, this is it. Miss Grundy is Archie's music teacher who showed up in Riverdale, and it all seems innocent at first. The situation changed when she gave him a ride in her Volkswagen Bug. Really, she gave him 2 rides in that Bug. But anyway, there is this passion that Archie has declared for music. And she seems to have brought that out in him. She has inspired him. He doesn't know if he loves the music or he loves her. But at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you what happened to Miss Grundy after she was run out of town by Betty's mother and Archie's father. And yes, for once, Betty's mother being intrusive actually served a purpose. Which brings us to Archie's father, Fred Andrews. Archie's father is a single father. His ex-wife is in the big city. She's a career woman, all that kind of thing, and she didn't want to be in this small hick town. And at some point in the story, she shows up and tries to persuade Archie to move back to the city with her, but he says no. I guess he had more banging to do. Let's talk about our fair-haired boy, Jughead Jones. Jughead Jones is the harmless little mousy character we remember, but with a twist. He and Betty are involved. Yes, they're banging. Bang, 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 bang. Jughead is not the half-sleep, burger-eating, slug that we saw in the comic series. He's a writer. He's very introspective. Jughead is giving us third-party perspective and narrative. And he's really, I like the Jughead character. I like who they chose for him. I like how they modified his hat. I like how he is. I was also surprised to find that he is the son of a member of a motorcycle gang from the South Side, and that would be FP. Remember I told you I think Betty's mother has a past with FP? Well, that's because it turns out she was from the South Side of town like him. Betty broke her neck to stick it out with Jughead because he was being drawn to the motorcycle gang because he ended up on the South Side with a foster family, because they sold the drive-in theater where he was living, which meant he was homeless, which is against the law. Social workers got involved. Archie tried to run interference. All kinds of things went on. But just like Betty overcommitted and was ready to join the gang, Veronica was no better. She stole from her parents to do something for Archie's father so that she could hold on to her man. I think that's what it was. She says that she was doing it to make the world a better place or something like that, and whatever. Yeah, Veronica, bye. F.P. Jones, as I said, is Jughead's father. Again, talk about a markup on the appearance. Good Lord. Anyway, Jughead chose to live in the back office of that drive-in to escape the negligence, alcoholism, and gang life of this Southsider. This is so very West Side Story. Jughead's mother and sister lived elsewhere because FP didn't take care of them either. He tried to fix himself. He stopped drinking. He was doing all kinds of things, and then only to find Jughead had done something that made him have to go back to the gang. Woo! Anyway, let's move on. Kevin Keller. Kevin Keller is the self-assured character who represents the LGBTQ community in the series. He has a habit of cruising public parks at night looking for love in all the wrong places, risking his health and safety. One night he goes out and perhaps the man trying to get him to get in his car is actually the Black Hood himself, and I can't say I doubt it. Betty discovers it and tells on him. Now all of a sudden they're children again, after she discovers his secret. She was actually the second person to find out about him cruising parks at night. The first person to find out was someone else in the character lineup who's in the process of self-discovery. His schoolmates don't seem to care or notice his struggle, but Kevin did, so he met him in the woods. Who was that boy? Well, you'll never believe, but it was Moose Mason. Remember him? He was the jock. Well, he's a whiny jock in Riverdale, but he does have a girlfriend, so we leave him alone until he figures out who he wants to be. Moving on, that brings us to Pop Tate, the beloved owner of the chocolate shop. He has a thing for the nostalgia of a soda fountain and diner, and that's what he runs in the town of Riverdale. That diner, though, gets a lot of action. That's where Archie's father was shot, and that's why he had the medical bill that Veronica thought she should pay off with her parents' money and then blackmailed them to make it so. Let's keep going. I know there's a lot going on here, but there are some characters I do want to mention, but I didn't cover. One is Reggie Mantle. Another is Reggie was the other football player that was on the team and always something of an adversary to Archie himself. Ethel Muggs. She is one of Veronica's pet people, as I call them. Veronica seems to think she's going to save certain people and save the world through her misdeeds. The Ethel Muggs story is another thing altogether. But I like the girl that they put in the series. She was cute. Chick Cooper, who is going to be the brother to Betty and Polly. He's deep into the adult entertainment industry and sells himself online with live streaming. Ugh. Josie McCoy, I really did not want to skip her, but she just kind of moves the story along. Her and her mother, the mayor. And then there's Chuck Clayton, who's the son of the football coach. And here's what. Chuck and the football players all have a bang bang book keeping a log of who they bang. And as it turns out, Polly's name was in there as one of the conquests of Jason. So here again, we're starting to wonder, did she really have a thing with him or she was mad at him? I mean, just what happened with Polly? Last but not least, there is Valerie Brown of the Pussycats who dated Archie. I did not see that coming, but Archie was so into music and Valerie seemed to want to encourage him, but she was more of an independent thinker, and Archie seemed to still need crutches and that kind of thing, and she saw it. She's very mature for her age, as are they all. I still have a hard time processing that these are high school students. So that effectively brings you up to season 2, episode 5. And I have a couple of things that I want to say before I give you those outcomes that I promised you. And one of them is to give serious, massive, big love respect to Madeline Petch, who plays the role of Cheryl Blossom. Every time this little girl comes on the scene, you know that there is going to be hell to pay. She is just living her best life in this character. She has channeled all of who Cheryl Blossom was meant to be, whether the comic, endorsed it or not. I just loved her. I thought she was great. I mean, every time she showed up, I was just sitting there looking and wondering, what is this girl going to do to these people next? And what is she going to say? And she's always lurking in the shadows, sitting behind something. She's always in the most peculiar little places, but she's a sneak, so that works for her. The second thing I want to say is that Jughead has finally gotten his comeuppance, and I'm so happy about that. The depth of character in him gave the mature audiences something to cling to because he gave it perspective. He had a more insightful view, even though he's in the story. At one point, he stops telling it and he starts living it. So I thought that was a great approach with the script writing. As far as Hiram Lodge is concerned, he's another one that's slated along with F.P. Jones' character. It was important that we had some edgy people because this is supposed to be a pop culture series, and without it, you had nothing to cling to. It was just a boring story about a bunch of teenagers. And they brought the grit. They brought the danger, the intrigue, the mystery. It was really good. They brought the suspense. And then finally, I want to say about Alice Cooper. As much as I don't like the fact that she was pushing drugs to her daughter, yes, she did that. They were sedatives. I didn't even mention that to you earlier. But Alice Cooper, I look for growth in a character, and she grew a little bit, but only through embarrassment, and she was forced into it. But she snapped right back like a rubber band and went right back to her mess. But I thought it was important that the viewers saw that Betty ultimately had a choice as to whether or not she was going to take those drugs, those sedatives, excuse me. I'm not monetized, so I guess I have to worry about that, but they might come along and tell me I'm not supposed to use that D word. I see stuff on YouTube all the time. I have no idea why that's a problem. Finally, I'm happy to know that this does not end in the 2 or 3 seasons that I suspected. It actually ends season 7, as the CW has now announced, in mid-season of 2023. I don't know if I can watch 7 seasons of this. I mean, 2 has worn me out. I just gave you the upshot. There's so much more to the story. I haven't even told you who the police chief is. I haven't talked to you about Betty's father and how Polly had this baby. Anyway, that's coming. Okay, give me a second. All right, so that's everything I liked about it. Now I want to talk about what I didn't like. What I did not like about the series, I want to rephrase that. What I could do without. What I could do without is the feeling that Jughead had a dark side that had yet to be tapped into, sort of like Betty. She had that business about anger management to the point that she was digging her fingernails into the palm of her hand when she made a fist. And she actually had the half moon scars in her hand. And of course, her brother Chick could relate. Chick is another problem for me. How he stood over her bed as she was asleep. I couldn't tell if he was looking at her longingly or if she was perhaps the next iteration of his live streaming. I just didn't know. He just gave me a very bad feeling, but I knew that storyline was going to end dramatically. Children not acting like children is my next complaint. I don't understand how we have come to a point where we call it entertainment to find children behaving as if they are adults. Walking, like, okay, let me use Veronica as an example. She's walking around with her handbag looking like somebody's grandmother in a high school. And she's running things and telling people what to do and telling her mother something. And then when she gets home, Veronica is a great example. When she gets home and she's having a confrontation with her mother, she's talking to her as if it's one of her girlfriends. I'm sorry, but my generation, no ma'am, no sir, no ham, no fat, no mustard. What did it say? No ma'am, no ham, no fat, no bread, something like that. Anyway, Veronica is talking to her mother like she's a girlfriend. Since when is your mother your girlfriend? My mother told me that she would never be my friend. She said, I am not your friend, nor shall I ever be, but I will forever be your mother. And that's what I felt was missing in this entire series. Not one parent seemed to speak up as an adult to an impressionable young person. I know it's entertainment. Please don't put in the comments that this is entertainment and just swallow it. I think entertainment has started to overpower reality, which is why we have the politics we do in the U.S. Don't get me started. Let's move on. Obligatory sex is the next problem. I felt there was far too much teenage you-know-what. Too much banging. Didn't hear one word about safe sex practices. Not a syllable. Very disappointing. And then there is the role of Molly Ringwald as Archie's mother. I'm not convinced yet. I know she comes back in a later series, but she better hurry up because that's my girl. I liked her, but she was shallow. She just came off as shallow and out of touch with her son's real life struggles. I wonder if she is even aware that he is engaging in adult behaviors. And I'm sure she doesn't know anything about Miss Grundy. What else? Archie needs to go to CVS and pick up a prescription for penicillin. He has been banging this whole series, and we're only on season 2. What's he gonna do for the next 5 seasons? Valerie Brown. She was cute. I liked her. Josie and the Pussycat, she handled her business 1000%. And I think she represented far better than Josie herself, if I'm honest. Josie and her mother, they don't seem to know what they want other than success. And when you meet the father or, the ex-husband of the mayor, you're going to understand where all this is coming from. And it's a crying shame because there are plenty of agent parents or whatever they call these Hollywood moms or whatever. I think it's a shame. There are a lot of social issues that come out in this, and those are good points. I shouldn't really add this into the things I don't like or the things I could do without, but there it is. Now, let's get into the stuff I promised you. The outcomes up to season 2, episode 5. I have to keep saying that because someone's going to say, but that's not how that worked out in the end. I don't know about the end. I'm just spoiling up to season 2, episode 5. One thing I know is that Jason was killed by a drug dealer. He and Polly had intended to run away together because they knew that his parents would never allow them to marry and live their own lives. They had a plan to go and live on some farm somewhere. When Polly came back to town, she is now a suspect, at least in the court of public opinion. And she's not under arrest or anything, but she's at home, she's pregnant, she's doing whatever. As it turns out, her grandfather and Jason's grandfather were not adversaries. the old Hatchfield and McCoy kind of thing. It wasn't that. Hatfield and McCoy, whatever. They were not adversaries. They were brothers, which means that she and Jason were cousins. I'll let you work that out with the baby thing. The other thing is that Jason and Cheryl Blossom were in the boat because of the runaway plan that Jason and Cheryl had come up with. She was putting on an act, sitting on that rock and weeping. She may have been crying in truth, because it comes out later. She really did love her brother dearly, because they were, she was saying goodbye to her support system because her parents were not supportive at all. In the story, she is the black sheep. She is the one who's never good enough. She's the one they can't trust to hold anything. Just an abused child, emotionally abused. So when her brother left, her twin brother at that, it was much deeper for her. So Veronica's accusation that their relationship was not natural, or that there was something suspect, it was within reason to expect that to be the case, but as it turns out, thankfully, that was not the case. The next thing I promised you is to tell you what Polly had to do with Jason's death. She really had nothing to do with it other than trying to meet him. And somewhere along the way, Jughead's father is involved in this. F.P. Jones was extracting information from the lover of Kevin Keller, who's also in the gang, the motorcycle gang from the South Side. That's kind of how Polly got dragged into this thing, just wrong place, wrong time. Betty gets involved with the murderer, who we know to be called or referred to as the Black Hood, and he starts to call her, and he's telling her that she made a speech for I guess Town Day or whatever day it was. She made some speech about people owning up to their faults and their misdeeds, and I guess he took it upon himself to be the executioner, or the judge and jury, and then the executioner for anyone who had done these wrongdoings. It's pretty clear that it's possible that he killed Jason as well, but we can't really say at this point in the story. It was Veronica's mother who was involved with Archie's father, and that's why he got shot. And the thing about it is, she was trying to work her business by masking it with his business as a legitimate business. You know, the classic thing, I just want to get out the game. No, you don't. And she didn't. And when Hiram comes back, she's 100 back on it. Now, interestingly, Veronica confronted her mother about dating this man. Never mind, she was involved with the son. Never mind that she paid his medical. That's a whole different bag of wax, isn't it? So then that brings us to the other points that I have here. The blackmail I've mentioned, and how she becomes a criminal. That's the next to the last. And then we'll talk about Miss Grundy and what happened to her. The thing about Veronica being drawn into the crime life, it has everything to do with her. I don't know, she just got excited about the ability to have her way. And that sort of made her drunk with power. And now she, too, is part of the family dynasty. You ought to see the way the mother, Hermione, stands next to the father, Hiram's chair. And she's, they're looking very stoic. And I don't know what's going to happen to Veronica, but her father just got out of jail. So she would want to slow that down a little bit, because she'll end up in juvie. Which brings us to the crime of passion carried out by Miss Grundy. After being confronted by Betty's mother and Archie's father about having an affair with this young man, they ran her out of town. She moved to another town, but not before she ran her eyeballs up and down some other young athletes walking down the street as she drove out of town. She gets to this other place, we don't know where it is, and when we see her, she's wrapping up a piano lesson with one of her students at her house. She walks over and gives him the usual stroking, kisses him goodbye, turns her back after shutting the door, only to find herself being lifted off the floor with her feet dangling and wiggling while someone is taking her head off with a long knife. This is too much. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments about this series, about some of the backstories that I've shared with you. Who's your favorite character? Who's the one that you want to see? Who do you remember? Who have you forgotten? And who is new to you? I told you my favorite. And that's enough for today. You have a great one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now, and thanks again.